gave you inspiration, like a specific thing that gave you inspiration to like, oh, this is a new thing I kind of can do now that you apply to one of your own songs?
Yeah. One of my like favorite co-writers that I've been writing with a lot, her name is Rasheen Marie. And she like played me a lot of these songs that they're, I guess, just very, very simple. And simple as like everything is precise. And like, I remember just thinking, oh, like this song has such a clear identity and there's like nothing. Like there's like 4 things maybe, but it's like perfect. Like there's no filler anything. And I think like for pop music, like there's always, I feel like pop music, or at least in like over like the past few years, have definitely changed. But like pop music is known to be like very big and like a lot of stuff to like fill the space and make it massive. And I
like
think
little ear candy on top of all
earworms, like you want the biggest drops, you want like slapping bass, all of that. But with like this like indie world, I like have definitely spent a lot of time clowning like indie singer songwriter girl music, because I'm like, like it's just guitar, it's just like fuzzy sounds, but I'm like, but you know exactly how to feel, when you listen to these songs, and it's not just any fuzzy sound, it's that specific fuzzy sound, and that acoustic guitar is like slightly untuned for a reason, because it's supposed to be like more raw. And it's like thinking, okay, if there's only 4 things, like why these 4 things? And I've never I think like for so long, like I'm been in like the more is more world. And like, I think one of the biggest things, like taking from other people, I'm like, oh, like if this is so simple and they like this so much, like I need to figure out for myself, like what are like, if I only have 3 elements, 4 elements, like I need to be able to defend each choice that I make for that. Whether it's like keeping vocals dry and just being like, because I want it to sound close, and just leaving it at that decision, and not thinking, oh, but it's not polished, you didn't do this, you didn't check all these checklist things that you're supposed to do as a producer, which like goes out the window when someone wants something else, and you realize like that's how you make it. That's my answer to that.
That's a great takeaway. Like, sometimes limitations are like the best ways to create, because, when you have every option in front of you, how do you decide which option to go with? But when you have limited options, you're able to kind of say like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Like, this is it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I'm always like referencing the Beatles, but they only had 4 channels, and they made Sgt. Pepper's, right? So like,
absolutely.
So that's all you really need. I mean, obviously it's nice to have more, but I love it. So are you tracking vocals in your home, like in a home studio? Do you like track vocals at like, do you like rent a full studio? Like how do the mechanics work for you?
Everything I've ever released has been recorded in my room or my dorm room, whatever my room is at the moment. I've never really, like, besides like taking notes in class, I've never been in a studio to make music for myself.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I like can actually do that. I think it's such a shame, because at school I had access to all this stuff, and it just was overwhelming. I didn't feel like I could really make music because I'd be too busy being like, oh, patch bay, what is that? And I'm still like that. Like I see like too many wires close together. I'm like, I don't know what these are for. Yeah. So nope, it's just here. The mechanics is this. You're looking at the studio right here.
Nice. How do you get a good vocal, sound inside of a bedroom? Like what do you do? Put up anything on the walls? Do you use one of those like isolation balls? Like what kind of microphone are you using?
Yeah.
Because your vocals sound amazing. Like,
thank you.
That's hard to do in a bedroom. That's hard.
I always think it's Austin, because Austin mixes most of my stuff, and I'm like, it's the mixing engineer. I think my job is just to make it so that it's like something that can be worked with. And I've learned, like, okay, like, make sure there's, you know, the obvious, like, no street noise, or I can't control that, but, you know, I have done everything from singing in my closet to putting pillows around me, to having my comforter over my head, to I did buy like this like thing, the shield.
Yeah.
But
those balls. Yeah.
I realized that I have gotten so used to singing and being able to look around the room that I hated using the shield, and my performance was weird. So I think, like, number one is definitely vocal performance. I think the fact that it feels cheap and feels like home always same thing with just like allows me to be honest with my vocal performance. And that has just, I think, like, that's my secret sauce. But I think the other thing is also,
well, you're being comfortable, you know, like,
yeah,
that's the same reason you don't go to like the studio and use the fancy patch bay. It's like I'm just more comfortable in my room with this mic, like just doing what I know how to do. Like, I totally relate to that.
Yes.
Sure.
100%. And in terms of mics, I've only ever used the Blue Dragonfly, and no really special reason. It was just I borrowed the mic from a friend in school, and I was like, this sounds so good and it looks so cute, and I bought it, and that's the only mic that I really have used since.
Wow. I think when you're recording your own vocals, you got to just find a mic that works with your voice.
Yes.
So it might just be like the right mic for your voice, you know, like,
yeah.
And it's not always a U87, right? Like, it could be a $200 mic, a $400 mic. It doesn't, you know, as long as it suits your voice, you know, that's all that matters.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So tell me a little about working with Austin when he's doing most of your mixes. Like, what does communication look like with him? And, you know, sending off mixes, is there anything involved in that he kind of like steps in, or like anything you do specifically before you send off a mix?
Yeah. I've learned so much from just the few chances that I had to watch him work. And the first time we ever met, he was living also in South Florida. So when I was in school, I would just take the train, and for like maybe like 2 weekends, like ever, I would go up and like he'll like mix something like in front of me, and I would look at his like session and be like, oh, look at this organization, like all the vocals, like it's labeled this way. The way he labels stems is the same way that I do it, and I don't produce in a very organized fashion, but after I'm like, this is it, this is the song, that's when I'm like, all right, everything that's a vocal is pink, everything that's drums has to be red. It's like everything is beautifully color coordinated, and that's like what I do. And print everything down, and then wrap it up in a neat little Dropbox folder and send it over to him. And he, I think, just kind of knows what I'm going for, and he'll send me like a mix, and then I'll just go crazy with my notes and have like time like stamps and everything, and say exactly what I'm looking for if it's not quite the vibe, or have like reference songs, and then we go from there. And it's always worked, and like it's always been remote. And if there's ever anything, like I'll like send him a voice message, or he'll send me like a video or something, and that's how it is for us.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys have a great communication going on, so that's probably the secret there.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Do you have any other creative tools that you use on a regular basis that help you get the sounds you're looking for in your head? Could be, you know, an EQ or a reverb or anything.
Yeah. I just got Kickstarter. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but I am not going to describe this correctly. I think it's like it does the thing where it's like what like to anything.
It sidechains it. It sidechains.
Yeah, basically like that. And I think like I've started using that for stuff that is a little bit more sparse, where I realize like, oh, I have been adding a lot of instruments, like being like, oh, I need to have drums or percussion to generate rhythm when I don't. Like sometimes it's like you just like to feel a pulse, you can do other things. And I think like that's been my new, not go-to, but like been a new tool that I'm like, okay, like I feel like every song that I make, even if it's a ballad, I always wanted to have a pulse and a groove, like a thing that you can kind of just latch onto and like we're like riding a bike somewhere, like there's a speed. And I think that like it saves time. I'm sure like you can just like sidechain the old fashioned way, but that's saved time for me in just being able to imagine what that's going to sound like, even if I like go about it in a different way. And then the other thing is I love working with vocals for anything. So just having like my own like personal pack of like just like vocal samples, be it like my favorite ones from Splice or just like stems that I got from like remix contests that I never entered. Like I love just having like different human voices to work with and use as like basically synths, sometimes percussion, sometimes as a texture. Those two things.
Yeah, I have a feeling you used one of those in the Saw segment song, which we're going to check out shortly. Maybe I might be wrong, but I really like the breakdown in the song called "Bet You Left It Out," which we're going to listen to on the Saw segment. Let's just jump into it, and then we'll since I've already mentioned it, let's get into the Saw segment.
Let's do it.
So you sent me a song called Bet You Left It Out by you, êMIA, that we're going to listen to for about 90 seconds, and then we'll talk about what went into it.
Yeah.
Sound cool?
Yes, would love that.
Took my hand and held me while you had somebody back in Raleigh, and I know now. Roll up to my city, acting lost and lonely, clinging to me, and I know now. I'll be taking out the trash, 'cause what you did was trashy. Looking back, I bet if she's asking, I bet you left it out. I bet you left it out. That night you know exactly what I'm talking about. I bet you left it out. I bet you played it down. Leave out all the details she can't know about. I honestly feel so bad for your hometown lady. All she has is what you're comfortable saying. Guess what you said and how you said it must have been killer. And if I was her, 'cause I've been her, I know I believe it. But I'm taking out the trash, 'cause what you did was trashy. It's a little sad, but I hope you're happy. I bet you left it out. I bet you left it out. That night you know exactly what I'm talking about. I bet you left it out. I bet you played it down. Leave out all the details she can't know about. So you
Wow, there's so many things going on in this song. I love it. I'm like trying to like cling on to like specific elements to talk about in there, but it's like another bar is like a whole other thing. I love the breakdown section and the guitar solo, like that rhythmic synth and that synth in the first chorus. Like there's so many things going on. Like tell me a bit about what went into this song.
Yeah. I try to remember like the first thing that I tried doing. At the time I was listening to a lot of Muna. They like just released like their second album, and I like have always loved like the 80s inspired synth pop. Like I love that so much. And I knew I wanted to make something big and bombastic and just like I'm a sassy girl kind of thing. And had been playing around with Serum. I think probably the first thing that I tracked was the bass and the synth parts, which is definitely new. I made it a point to not record any piano